Welcome to the Too Much Dip podcast. It's Monday. My name's Dave. I'm here in Austin, Texas at the Wash Media Studios. For now, joining me via the internet, live from Coppell, Texas, right?
Live and in color.
Hey, KJ. What's up?
What up, Digital Dave?
We're
Is that a nickname?
e-podcasting.
Workshop?
It's a digital pod. Dylan's sick. Did you know that? Dylan's got a little bug. Not a bug. Bug refers to like stomach bug, right? Like bug means butt problems, I think generally, or coming out the top. He's just sick. He's got fever. I'm going to HIPAA him again for the second time today. Big HIPAA guy. Non-COVID related illness, non-flu related illness via testing.
Okay. I figured maybe it was, I don't know if you ever had this situation. Me, as somebody who's inclined to enjoy a lot of candy, if your parents let you go like buck wild on Halloween candy and you find out the hard way the next day, like, hey, I probably shouldn't have eaten all those dots, like your stomach hurt for a little longer than 4 to 6 hours. I figured he was just suffering from just like all the heat radiating from Bay's bachelorette party's Instagram story, and his tum-tum, it just hurt from all that candy.
That's a real possibility. I bet seeing those pictures and just the FOMO and everything really suppressed his immune system. Probably made him more susceptible to illness. As a guy who was with Dylan Saturday because he told everybody he invited over to watch the Masters that it was just allergies. In his defense, allergies have been awful, and I believed him because mine were bad. I was like, yeah, dude, I'm going through it, brother. But it turns out he texted yesterday. He's like, yeah, it's not allergies. It's we are beyond. So
fair. That's always a tough situation. I vividly remember botching like my first post-grad, like ask a person that you meet at the bar out for drinks, dinner, happy hour situation. It was like Cinco de Mayo, and your boy fully succumbed to like sinus infection, allergies. Thought I was going to be able to fight through it, and I was just sitting at the table trying to pound margs while like wiping salt into my eyes that were just puffy and red and crying. I'm like, this is miserable for us both. I look like Hitch.
In high school, I could power through it. In college, I could power through it. Realized very quickly in my 20s, like, if I'm not feeling it, there's no point in trying to power through it. I'm not going to have a good time. I'm going to be concerned. I've got like, runny nose. My eyes look terrible. People are going to think I'm on drugs. Just stay home.
Stay home, stay safe, as many outdated profiles on the social medias probably still say.
Also, Dr. Fauci.
R.I.P. question mark.
Is he alive? He's alive.
He's still doing it, I'm sure. But like, I feel like if we say it preemptively, shouts to our good buddy Jake, this is kind of a pre-memoriam, if you will. Like if we pre-RIP people enough, when they actually pass, like we will know that it's a genuine send-off. And again, hat tip to Jake Kemp for that thought. But I'm down for it. So RIP, Dr. Fauci. This is
people are confused.
This is one of the weirdest parts of the sports calendar. And by weird, I don't mean bad, because you're dealing with timelines just filled with so many different emotions. People in the middle of playoff runs, people in the middle of season starting and optimism abound, people over tweeting about prospects in baseball that are pitching their first innings.
Name names.
And Jack Leiter shouts few strikeouts in his debut up in Frisco. Your boy's keeping track of it via the Twitter space.
One earned.
But you combine all of that with the magic that is Twitter Masters weekend, and it was a real, as Brett would say, choose your own adventure on the TL this weekend.
It was. The Masters is one of those events that lends itself to volume shooting and average tweets, and I'm guilty of this, average tweets that you probably otherwise would holster. You throw them out there because you know they're going to do okay, probably more than okay. I thought this year was relatively, at least on the weekend, tame, and it was probably because the big cat was, nowhere near the front page of the leaderboard, and the leaderboard we did have, with the exception to the run that Rory made, we'll get to that in a little bit, was not really the most memeable.
Yeah.
Like Scottie Scheffler, nice guy. I think most people are like, "Oh yeah, he's a good dude, happy he won." That's really cool. He's obviously the best player in the world, but not the most memeable until he got to Butler Cabin. We'll get to that in a minute, but
Yeah, his proclivity to both jack it on and jack it off throughout the course
okay,
really is about the only thing people can meme.
sure.
My ongoing thought, not having visually connected, this is Scottie Scheffler with the name Scottie Scheffler, because his rise has been absolutely incredible over the past few months. I'm sure you'll explain to us in a minute. But would you say that he is it might be a height thing, I don't know, most mature or oldest looking 25-year-old in sports
Absolutely.
right now?
Absolutely. There's no doubt about it. He is a full-grown adult. He's been a full-grown adult for about 15 years, if I had to guess. Um, even at like the University of Texas, if you look at those photos when he hadn't like completely filled out, I mean, he looked like he was about to go pick his kid up from T-ball.
Older or younger? Cousin Greg the Egg, actor played by, or Greg Hirsch, played by Nicholas Braun, or Scottie Scheffler.
Ooh, I'm gonna guess that cousin Greg is 29 years old.
Okay, so you're guessing a spread of 4 years. You're 4 years short. He's 33.
Wow.
And I would say that Scottie Scheffler looks almost 8 years older than he does. And maybe, obviously, a lot of that's his character that he plays in the show is meant to be so green and immature. But again, just looks alone. Scottie Scheffler, I don't know. Maybe it's just being at Augusta. Something just looks regal AF about walking the greens of Augusta.
Well, but also like golf attire, even cool modern golf attire, it ages you. Like any
Yeah.
dude wearing a golf polo and a hat, they immediately add like 4 years to their actual age. Um, and so yeah, Scotty, Nike did not give him the A list, or the of their shirts, because I mean the shirt that he won the Masters in, that blue stripe, that was a brick. He bricked his Sunday Masters fit. I'll say it.
Rory was in something similar, right? Didn't Rory have a stripe situation going on?
Did he? I can't. I'm envisioning white in my head, but I could be wrong.
No, I mean that's just his pale northern Irish demeanor.
Oh, you know what? He had it. No, he had a patterned polo. It's a better polo than what Scotty had on. I know it's a subjective argument, but it's better.
Well, I want to commend you on two things, and we'll get to my excitement of watching and tracking individual players here in a little bit. But ever since your comment of golf fans dressing as if they're actually going to be hitting the driving range and or playing that day, it was absurd to watch, and then just try to pick out of the crowd. Like, there'd be a handful of guys who look like, hey, they walked right out of the country club straight to the front rope. Especially towards 18, that there's VIPs that are like ushered to their positions. And then there'll be female observers who are, they stand out, A, because they're women, but B, because they're not dressed like they're about to play golf.
That'd be you, because you love observing females at golf tournaments.
Yes, there were some strong calves available to be seen. But the entire gallery was just crisscross with, like, I get it, man. You don't need to go full throwback Hardaway jersey like you're preparing to walk the grounds of ACL for 3 days. It's a long day. You definitely need to be performance poloed up, moisture wicking for sure. I get it. Being prepared for wind, rain, whatever. but you don't need to look like you're also about to, go straight from the boardroom to the biblioteca via like every mock turtleneck that you've seen on the course that week.
Yeah, I get it, and like I grappled with this at the match play because I'm like, man, I don't want to look like every other dude. I don't
Right.
know why. I feel like I want to stand out a little bit. And I've worn a t-shirt to the Dell match play before. And I wore a short sleeve button down, which not a traditional golf shirt, still has a collar. I think if I was at the Masters, if I remember lucky enough, like if I'm a Dylan Chivery type who just goes to the Masters, I will probably wear a golf polo just because it's the Masters. It's Augusta National. I know it's a little bit full of itself, but I don't want to be the guy rocking like a Tyler Sagan graphic tee, like as like
They're
Rory
not
chips in or something.
they're not letting you inside anywhere. Like you're going to the facilities and whatever outdoor setups that they have. It's not like you're going through, maybe they have hospitality buildings and things set up, but I would imagine the large majority of these people are hitting the gates, hitting the grounds, and then whatever outdoor bathroom slash, concession stand situation they've got going on. So, I would say the next bit I want to see, do what I hate about the Waste Management Tour. I want to see somebody in the old Jack Del Rio Reebok certified, air approved, sweat resistant full suit at the Masters. Like if you're going to go corporate, let's go all out.
I love that.
It's in casual at the next Masters.
So this is from a website, generic. This is the dress code for patrons at the Masters. At the Masters, most patrons dress in golf casual attire, including collar shirts and long pants or golf shorts. We recommend to dress like you are playing.
Well, there you have it.
Keep in mind, there are a couple of items that are not permitted to wear at the Masters: denim and golf shoes with metal spikes. Well, there goes my fit.
Oh, okay. I was going to wear some Michael Johnson Gold's track spikes. Just get some calf workouts in the whole time.
Dude, Dallas's own Michael Johnson.
Yeah. Well, okay, let's shift to what actually happened. Walk me through your experience of not only, we'll get to the fact that you picked Scottie, but your excitement and rooting interests and how things paid off for you over the weekend.
I feel a little bit dirty, mainly because as Saturday progressed and it looked like Scottie he was running away with it, I found myself rooting for a double here and there, not a complete collapse, because I don't dislike Scottie, but selfishly as a viewer, I'm looking for some action, boss. I want some heat on Sunday. And in Cam Smith's defense, he gave us heat early on. He got it to one stroke. And I was kind of pulling for Cam only because, well, I like him. He's the thought of him in Butler Cabin is hilarious. And I know like the kind of crazy mullet, trashy mustache bit might be overplayed in some areas. He's Australian. It works. I don't care. I don't care how much of a gimmick it is. It's a good gimmick. He's kind of a ratty little guy, but he's an absolute dog. You don't want to be head up against him. And I was like, you know what? I love this dude. What was that?
That was dog, but sorry, I played a little slow.
Oh, that was good. Not quite as good as your Taco Bell, but still really good.
Can't win them all.
But yeah, that was it. So I spent Sunday kind of hoping for something to happen. And then when Scottie chipped in on 3, I believe it was, then I was like, you know what? That's your signature shot. That's the moment we'll remember. This is not going to be you just going out there and making 18 pars and winning the Masters. Like you had some shots and he had many more. His irons were freaking dialed. It was insane to see. He's a smart player, well beyond his years, which again goes to him being like a 38-year-old man who's played Augusta. I mean, I think that's his 3rd time playing there in a tournament. Just Hats off, Highland Park's own. Good local kid, gone good, KJ.
I would say that there was enough Twitter talk about small town, hard luck kids from Highland Park. I won't beat that into the ground today, but I do have the question of, is it fair to say that something about the pathway of growing up in the Dallas-Fort Worth area, which is popular for numerous reasons, temperate climate, taxes, obviously, but the ability to play golf 10 months out of the year, realistically, maybe more. But coming up in this area and then going to UT Austin, similar to what we've seen from Spieth and another person who I can't name. How much of it do you think is just natural gifts versus like the path he took has helped kind of create this monster?
This is a cop-out answer, but it's a combination. He obviously has the physical tools. I know. So I have a tweet from like a year or two ago about it's referencing a quote from his coach at University of Texas, who mentioned that Scottie. He literally said Scottie had a lot of adversity, and one of them was that he was at the business school at UT, which is a notoriously hard school to get into, and so he had that going
Okay.
against him. And then also he grew a lot. He got real tall. And I've just found that so funny. I'm like, damn, dude, how did he get here? How did he not turn to a life of crime? Um, and that makes me think that, I don't know if he was an average sized kid growing up, but he probably learned the game one way. And then when he grew, and he's a tall, lanky guy, which is a great build for golf because he has a long swing, and he has great feel, which is intangible. Um, he's just a specimen, like for the game, and he was a beast at UT. Now having the means to be a member at Royal Oaks in Dallas, and probably who and his give his parents credit, they invested in him. I think that there was a they did take out a second mortgage or something. I think I heard something like that to let him go play these tournaments and invest in him. Um, that's pretty cool. I might be conflating a Tiger story with Scotty, but still, they definitely like backed him, and his parents seem like good people, and he seems like a good guy. But yeah, obviously, like it's a lot easier when you have the means to be at a country club working on your game every day.
Would you say that, or let me back up and rephrase this. It looked like to me, a casual viewer who watches very little to, an occasional tournament here or there. He doesn't seem to have any like pace of play issues whatsoever. If anything, he might play relatively fast. Like not talking, we can get to the four putt if we want to talk about that, but like throughout the day, he always seemed to see his shot, approach his shot, hit his shot, and things worked out almost exactly how he wanted them to. And then I don't know if it's just kind of narrative for me, but it seemed like Cam Smith's downfall towards the end of the day on Sunday, or implosion, began to maybe like affect his pressure a little bit. Like he seemed to be level headed, and he sees Cam Smith falling apart. He started taking a little bit longer on his shots, and things not really fell apart, but wavered towards the end.
I don't think Cam had his A game on the weekend at all.
Yeah.
Um, I know that might be crazy to say because he got it to one stroke. He came out birdie, right?
He's
Um,
finished what, 68 and started at 68 on the week. So
yeah, and I think you could sense that in Cam that like he knew like okay, this I don't have it necessarily, but and that's a tough course to not have it on as he learned. You did kind of see him look a little bit like he was laboring or just kind of have that look of like not complete confidence. And you've seen him have that like if you go back and watch like the President's Cup, um, he's normally a pretty confident guy out there. Which is funny because he has a ratty mullet and a terrible stash, which I just absolutely fucking love. But Scotty, he just he looks cool as a cucumber, as my mom would say. My mom's never said that. Somebody's mom said that. And then that quote he had afterward that he was crying the morning of because he was so stressed out. Did you see that?
yeah, that hit pretty real. Like you
Nobody wants
can't,
to see their dad cry.
but nobody ever, But nobody, I shouldn't say nobody. Think of the most recent stars we have in golf right now. Over the last, like John Rahm doesn't have the personality to admit something like
Has
that.
never cried.
You know, he'd be like, yeah, I cried into my fiance or wife's like bosom. You know, he might say that because she looked great after we won.
He was mosting.
Brooks isn't saying that. He's like, I didn't think about it till I showed up and, you know, hit the range. Bryson's not saying that. Like, to get that kind of pivot from like the angle we've been going with some of our recent golf stars, I thought that was tremendous. Like that, if anything, kind of brought him back down to earth for me to be like excited to root for the rest of the year. Not like I had anything against him, but it's just, you know, it gave me something personal to be like, okay, great. This sets him aside from being freakishly tall and looks older than he is.
Yeah. You know, I felt bad yesterday as I was learning more about Scottie and like just hearing him talk. I was like, man, why was I rooting for his demise? Like, he's a Dallas kid. Everybody thinks I should be rooting for him. And I did pick him, but that's, you know, like crazy. I picked the number one player in the world to win the tournament or to play well.
I didn't realize watching Rory on Sunday that his comeback was so historic, or that his round was historic. I should say. I was so dialed in on like explaining to my Sig like just the difference in purse that he would have had when his day started to where he finished, like went out there and made himself like $1.3 million in that day. And then, you know, the same thing for Colin Morikawa. Obviously, I was invested in watching Morikawa have a hell of a day because he was 1 over coming into the day. But when I saw that Rory's round 8 under was a record, I guess I just did not. I wasn't tracking it. Maybe I didn't have the volume up on the TV. That's pretty typical for me. Just did not realize the magnitude of what he was doing. So, you know, I'm happy for him because I feel like he's always struggled, at least in my recollection, with the Master, with Augusta.
Well, you know, like a decade ago, he had a significant lead going into Sunday, and he shot like 80 or 81.
Right.
And he was still kind of a kid then. And since then, he's been chasing it. I think Rory has, thank you, Kyle Porter, CBS, 6 top 10s at the Masters over the last decade. But I know that sounds great, right? A lot of guys would kill for that. But that a lot of that is, in the joke on Twitter, when the pressure's off, when he can't win, yeah, he'll go out there on Sunday and go low and backdoor top 10. And yesterday, it was pretty evident. He was playing free. 60 to do that, and then that sand shot, which we'll get to CBS in a minute, how they absolutely botched the call of that, was awesome. And I was honestly I was trying to figure out a way in my head. I'm like, all right, what does Scottie have to do? Obviously, he's at the time, I think he was 3 strokes up. He was at 10 under, Rory's at 7. Like, I'm like, all right, where is there a double and then a couple bogeys in there somewhere? And you know, I think he was about to play 12, and he played 12 about as well as you can. Just middle of the. Oh no, he didn't. He came over the top and hooked it.
Right. He finished left of the green.
He was way left. He went long and left. Cam, I'm forgetting because Cam chunked one. I don't know what he did. I don't know. That was terrible. But anyway, no, that was cool to see. And then the moment with Morikawa, it made it made the tournament as a whole a little bit more cool and memorable because you had that historic round. And then you had just both of those guys holing out from the bunker and like being excited for each other and the crowd going crazy. And that was just a cool moment. Like, yeah, these guys they're not going to win, but that was fun. That was kind of like golf at its best.
Who was playing with Shane Lowry?
Ooh, oh.
Because you didn't see him. And so I was.
Corey Connors, maybe? Canada's own?
I just didn't see whoever he was playing with, and Lowry was lurking and, you know, had his chance, and they showed him a ton on Saturday, and it just wasn't there for him. Obviously, you know, with what Scheffler did, it wasn't there for a lot of people, but we saw so much of Rory and Morikawa with what they were doing. I guess maybe he was playing with Matsuyama. No, it wasn't Matsuyama because we saw him finish earlier. I was happy that we saw that. What I'm getting at is, without Rory or without Colin Morikawa doing what they did on Sunday, think of how bad of a watch this might have been. Even watching how great Scottie's day would have been, it would have dragged. You would have just been watching a bunch of Lowry trying, Cam Smith imploding. I don't think it would have been nearly as a compelling of a day. You needed that second, third story just to prop things up in between great moments.
Agree.
So what did CBS do? Because I missed this.
So Rory's at 6 under, playing 18, and he puts his approach shot into the bunker. And what little hope he had, you're like, oh well, he's gonna par. That's 65 though. 65. That's a great round, or 66. And they're showing Scottie on the green, and I don't remember what hole they were on. I want to say 10 or 11, but you hear the roar. And this is the second roar I'd heard a roar previously, and it was for Rory. It was like, it sounded like a tiger roar out there. I know that's cliche to say, but I was like, what else are they going to be roaring? There's either an ace on 16 or Rory just did something. So you hear that. I look down my Masters app. I'm getting updates, and I see that Rory finished, and he finished at 8 under. I'm like, holy shit, he made that.
Yep.
And then the coverage keeps going for a minute, and then Nance and Faldo, they're like, oh, something happened on 18. And I can't remember specifically, but he says like, oh, maybe something special. I don't want to spoil it. And I'm thinking, dude, unless
show it.
I mean, yeah. And like, if I was somebody at home just casually watching without the Masters app, and I genuinely didn't know what happened, when they say that, I'm like, oh, I guess Roy holed out. Well, there goes that moment for me. Like, because most people probably aren't watching it like glued to their phones because they're in like 6 different pools that they lost money in, all of them, me. And it was just a botch, and Faldo talked over it. And it was just like, dude, how do you screw this moment up? This is awesome. Even if which they often know what's going to happen before they show the shot, you could at least feign excitement, right? Like, be like, let's go back over to 18.
Where Rory's finishing a tremendous day, approach shot into the bunker, whatever. I agree. I was one of those people who was not watching the Masters app, apologies to myself and my thumb zone, but I did have Twitter open at the time, which is dumb on my part, because I already know live sports, you're bound to get an F up. And I got 1 or 2 all caps Rory or holy shit McIlroy like tweets on the timeline. And then it shows. And then I see her tweet like, oh, I wonder if something spectacular happened or whatever it was. And I'm like, oh, yeah, I was in the same position. And I'm watching that. And I think like an idiot, I hit rewind, or CBS jumped back to Scottie Scheffler, or they kept showing the replay, because then you don't even get to see Colin Morikawa's shot live, I don't think.
No.
Like they didn't show that. And so obviously me having picked Morikawa, like I was like, okay, I'm hitching my interest here, was excited to see it, blah, blah, blah. And I'm like, well, shit, dude, you blew it back-to-back times. Like I didn't see it happen, unfold, like as they were lining it up back-to-back times. Like that was crushing. I'm sure Cam Smith had something to do with it, but I didn't need 50 seconds of him like backing people up off his shot, out of the rough. Instead, we got that as opposed to the sand shots. Well, real quick question. Typically, would whoever is Roy, would they then just walk up to the clubhouse or to the scores, whatever? Or would they wait on the other person that they were finishing playing with? Whenever it's 18 at the Masters, like he has this big moment, do they typically exit stage so this other guy can have their moment, or do they usually wait and congratulate them before walking off together?
Are you talking about Cam Smith?
No. I'm talking about Rory holding out.
Oh no, yeah, you wait for your playing partner to finish. That's okay. Bad. That would be really bad etiquette, and everybody would be talking about it. Like, oh, what happened there? So yeah, okay. you wait, then you do the hat off handshake, caddy handshake, walk out of there, go sign your scorecard.
Right, and I guess I wasn't sure if it was a situation where like, yes, of course you wait on the guy, but at the same time, is it allowing them to have the full stage themselves? But I guess you would create a situation where if he left, like if that's Tiger and he finishes and whoever's, Louis finishing right behind him, like the fucking gallery is going to be dispersing all around Louis. So like, it'd be terrible if he did that. So that makes sense. Okay. Because I did think it was incredible television to see Rory McIlroy his caddy, I believe, just as excited for Morikawa as anybody was.
Yeah,
Like,
they're
as soon
buddies.
as
They apparently travel together week to week.
that's
So that was cool. And then CBS, normally you cut the network some slack because it's like, dude, golf is hard as hell to cover, right? But at that point, there were two storylines. It was Scottie and Cam and Rory. And
Mhm.
it's to not be prepared for that, it's a little wild. And then CBS had another thing, which wasn't that big of a deal. But so Amanda, it's now Amanda Renner, formerly Amanda
Yeah.
Balionis, and she's great. But she interviewed Tiger after his round. And after that, they show Tiger go hug his family, and you can hear it. There's a hot mic, and he's saying, "Oh, I told Sky Sports, but not CBS." And so everybody's like, "What? Told him what?" And he did an interview with Sky Sports, and they asked him like, "Are you going to play anymore this year?"
Oh, when
And
he
he
committed
said,
to the
"Yeah, I'm
Open.
playing the Open Championship, and we'll see about the PGA. I'm going to try," which is a big scoop. And to not, for CBS not to ask that, I understand you don't want to be completely pushy, but like that's tough that Sky Sports got that and they didn't.
To ask Tiger, will we see you anymore this year? How are you feeling? Do you feel like you
I,
could be back? Like, I feel like that's a softball question.
that you know what, you're right. That's in bounds. Like I know he just finished and his body probably feels awful. I don't
And
know how much of
that's
him you watch, but there was times where I was like, dude, he's withdrawing. He's not playing tomorrow.
Yeah. I mean, I think you could have easily framed it with I know you had an ice bath or two this weekend already. I'm sure there are many more in the future. When do you think we'll see Tiger out there again?
I
Or
love
see you?
I love him talking about how he hates how the ice baths suck. And I'm like, dude, there's no way you hate those. This is like your dream. You're like a real legitimate athlete. You're like doing probably Wim Hof breathing and you're getting into the zone and you're just getting in there. You live for this shit. This is you.
Just jamming Lincoln Park, going full numb the whole time.
That's what I do when
Uh,
I ice bath.
Lastly, I do want to, we talked about the amount of Rory tweets I saw on the TL. Shockingly few Colin tweets in all caps that followed up the amount of Rory McIlroy celebrations on the TL. I get it. But I also see you.
Colin justice. You want justice for Colin?
Justice for Colin, exactly. Uh, that'd be a terrible Nike like hashtag to co-opt. They might get some questions. And I do think we should commend you and recognize you for just an absurd amount of success. We all picked fairly chalk, during our draft of picking 3 players for this tournament. You had the middle selection. Dylan picked John Rahm, Jordan Spieth, and DJ. Finished 5 over par, and Jordan Spieth didn't make the cut. You picked Scottie Scheffler, Will Zalatoris, who was also kind of a non-factor all day. He had some shots, but it was hard to see him struggle. And Cam Smith finished 18 under. Myself, who went with Justin Thomas, Colin Morikawa, tried to pick Hideki Matsuyama, who was 2 over, but between Thomas and Morikawa, they were 5 under on the day or on the week. And Louis Oosthuizen, very publicly and notably, played with Tiger day 1 and said, yeah, that's it for me. I'm not coming back day 2. And withdrew after 1 round. So, having said that, in light of upcoming events, both Dylan's health-related protocol issues and the likelihood that I may or may not miss an upcoming segment, your boy will dedicate some time to prepare for a 5-minute segment. You should already be in receipt of my $50 to make sure you get all meated up. And to that, I tip my cap and congratulate you.
Dude, no, I think the company's going to pay for that.
Those ain't the rules.
Oh.
I need Dylan to pay you in pesos when he gets back.
Okay.
We're changing.
I'll request him. I'll request him after the pod. Kick him while he's down. He's probably in an ice bath right now.
I think it's appropriate. Maybe our next sponsor can help him recover mentally.
Yeah. Let's say what's up to our good friends at Headspace. I mean, where do you start? Are your thoughts running in endless circles in your mind? I will pull back the curtain. I did not do my little quick end of night meditation last night. Slept fairly poorly. A lot of that was storm induced. I did get woken up by a surprise storm. Shout out to South Austin. Got some much needed rain. But man, I was stressed. I was stressing hard. The stresses of this last year, it's more important than ever to practice living healthier and happier, having a happier life. So, what if in a few minutes, that's all it took to change your relationship with stress and anxiety, transforming your life for the better? That's the power of meditation with Headspace. Our thoughts can be confusing enough. Meditation does not have to be. Headspace is your convenient dose of meditation, mindfulness, and sleep exercises to relieve your stress and anxiety and help you get a good night's sleep all in one app, making it easy to catch your breath and make time for your mental health. And it's one of the most science backed meditation apps in the world, proving meditation does work. A study proves in just 2 weeks, Headspace can reduce your stress by 14%. 14%, that's an unbelievable number. I love the SOS mini meditations for a quick breather. I do those at night. They relieve my stress. They bring me a little moment of peace amongst all the flipping chaos, KJ. You know what I'm talking about? These kids and Twitter and
Absolutely
stuff.
do. Absolutely do. As our listeners know, as I'm expecting child number 2, we've been wrestling with the decision of where we're moving in a month or so, coming up with ideas for a new vehicle that's big enough to fit the family. All of these plates to spin on top of focusing on the day-to-day grind. The daily the mini SOS mini meditations have been critical to make sure I can kind of not be an absolute jerk at the end of the day. Unwind, bring my best self home each day is what I would call it. So find some Headspace at headspace.com/bang. Get 1 month free of their entire meditation library. That is headspace.com/bang.
This is their best offer.
Correct.
So go to headspace.com/bang today. Thank you, KJ. Anything else on Masters? I do want to just say Butler Cabin delivered as it always does.
Yes.
Just had poor Hideki. He doesn't really know much English. He's a sweetheart. Apparently he nailed his speech at the Champions Dinner. Apparently the menu was fantastic. Everybody liked it. But man, trying to put that jacket on big old lumbering Scottie. And Scottie wronged him. That was not on Hideki, I don't think. So he did the classic, like, if you can't see at home, I'm like,
non-dominant arm first. And I think he went dominant arm first, which is a mistake. Like, you can't leave, if you're right-handed and you leave your left hand with like whatever limited rotation that you've got on there to bend back into the coat secondly, it's never going to turn out well.
You got to recognize which arm has more range of motion.
Exactly.
And that's the one that goes in second. That was amazing. And then anything else on Tiger? Like, I feel like we didn't talk about him enough. I know it was insane. His walk on 18. Yes, I'm a sports crier. I did tear up because I just had the thought. I'm like, man, what if this is it? I knew it won't be it, but I'm like, what if this is it? What if he just maxed it out so hard and he just did some irreversible permanent damage to that jacked up leg and we never see him on the course again? I had that thought.
I think it's definitely made us realize, like, hey, we've got to start actually embracing and enjoying when we've got like the greatest playing in front of us. I think other sports have began to kind of realize that. Tom Brady has given football fans that ability, or that opportunity, I should say.
Twice.
I think golf has gotten that opportunity right now with Tiger. So I think soaking it all in has been critical. Yeah, we didn't talk about it enough. I would say if there were 3 storylines, coming out of the weekend, obviously Scheffler dominated all of them, but the way that Cam Smith started and finished is probably number 2. And then Tiger overarching the entire weekend and being back, so to speak, is number 1. But I think that the amount of respect and love that all of the other players on the tour give Tiger, including Scottie Scheffler, he's like, I wear his shoes. I'm wearing a Tiger shirt. I play his irons. Him being there means so much to me, and the rest of the guys on the tour. Like, that unequivocal respect is just absolutely incredible to see. So shouts to him. Glad he's back.
Shouts to him, and shouts to the 12th hole, which was Cam Smith's demise. Once again, it absolutely changes the tournament, and I'll never understand it till I stand on that tee or near it and just see it, because it's the shortest par 3 on the course. And I don't know what Cam was doing, because it looked like he was lined up right like he was going to try to sling a draw in there to that pin, which is not what you do. If you listen to Tiger and Jack, they say just play it on Sunday, play it over the bunkers, middle of the green. Do not go with that pin. You see guys with a, a 9 iron, an 8 iron, go right at that pin and leave it short. Cam chunked that. He had to have, right? Because he didn't even touch the other side. It just went dead into the water. But good God, that was tough. I felt when they showed the slow-mo when they went to commercial of his face when he knew it.
Oh man,
that was
without
tough.
showing the ball, you could track the ball in your mind watching its face.
Yeah,
like it hit its apex, and you could tell the moment
yep,
in which it wasn't going any further. He just melted.
It wasn't even close. Shout out to his family. Hey,
what hole is it where, and it might be 16, there's another small creek, if you will, but it's not, a full situation. But watching the caddies like try to traverse that, like hopping over it, 1 foot hop it, I'm like, yeesh.
Oh, is that 13?
Might-
Yeah.
it might-
They showed
might be
somebody was down there. It's the par 5, and it's the one that you can go for in 2, and that's all of them really. But yeah, somebody tried to do like the classic like little hop over, which is
Yeah,
kind of a
first caddy.
muni move.
And I was just like, okay, I get it. You've got it. You did have it, but if you didn't have it, you are now a meme.
Yeah, your ankle has been broken, my friend.
In an all white freaking caddy gear. Like now you're muddy and wet. That wouldn't have been good. All right, let's do a little bit of basketball real quick. I think we'll sprint through the finish on these next few topics because regular season is over. I have talked about it the last few weeks, but the NBA MVP race has been of interest, not because Doncic was kind of close within the last 5 or 6 months of the season, whatever, didn't start strong, but because of the proximity between Nikola Jokic, Giannis, and Joel Embiid throughout the season, it's just ridiculous. StatMuse put out a tremendous side-by-side comparison between the three. Nikola Jokic playing without Michael Porter Jr. and without Murray all season long, still put up 27, 14, and 8. And basically dominated both advanced stats, basic stats, advanced stats plus, and random stats over Giannis and Joel. He won 30 out of 40 categories between the three of them. I get it. We don't love going back to back. European players often have to, fight for their respect in the league, but there's just no getting by just how dominant of a player he is to do that, and in the West from the center position.
Yeah, that's I mean, that was the obvious reason I didn't want Dallas to end up with Denver in the first round.
Yeah, he played Denver. Yeah.
He's just he's a horrible matchup for them because they've got serviceable bigs. Dwight Powell's been awesome, but cannot guard him. Like they don't have a guy who can take that.
Not many do.
Exactly. And yeah, I'm looking at these stats. These are insane. And Jokic has done this with a limited team around him.
Yeah. It's been interesting to see the rise of how that team's been put together, because them and the Jazz have always been interesting because they've got stars. Clearly they have stars. They have bigs. They had point guards on both teams, but they've always rotated the pieces and stayed consistently in that 2 through 4 seed in the West. And it's just, obviously I'm rooting for the Mavericks. My money may be on the Grizzlies, and my interest may be on seeing as much Ja Morant in the playoffs as possible. But I would not hate an opportunity to see Jokic get a ring, and or see Jokic versus Giannis or Jokic versus Joel in the finals would be tremendous. If it's either of those teams out of the East, I want to see Jokic in that moment.
That would be ideal, I think, for the MVP or the NBA. If Jokic can get in there against one of those two guys. I don't know. I think Giannis would be really, really fun just watching those two battle. But the big story in Dallas, and I guess around the league, I go to bed last night before the first half even started, or before the first half even ended, thinking, okay, whatever, this game doesn't mean anything. They're locked into the 4th seed based on the scoreboard. Fine. Wake up due to the thunderstorm. Go check my phone as I always do to make sure there's nothing super severe coming my way that I need to be aware of. And see some Luka stuff out there. And Luka has had a calf injury, I see, in the second half of the game. Yes, he was playing in the last game of the season, which at that time I think was relatively meaningless. I think
At
Golden
that,
State was up like 20 points at that point.
that's the big thing. I want to make sure we don't bash too hard because, like we just established, you wanted to do whatever's possible to face the Jazz instead of the Nuggets. Both are going to be tough, but the Mavs match up way better with the Jazz than they do the Nuggets. And having home court advantage over the Jazz, they've been undefeated against them at home. So there was reason for Luka to play. You have the odd added factor that Luka got a real ticky-tacky technical, thanks for alliteration, on Friday. That would have been his 16th on the season and kept him out of playing on Sunday. By rule, you're suspended of the following your 16th technical during the regular season. That slate renews for the playoffs. That technical foul was rescinded thanks to some appeal, including like vocal opposers like Kevin Durant getting on Twitter being like that there was no foul called.
Shout out Kevin Durant.
Kevin Durant is endearing himself to the Dallas fan base of late, both for supporting Dorian Finney-Smith's talents, for Dwight Powell's Achilles recovery, and now for this love of Luka and respecting Luka across the board. I think people are enjoying that KD's online. But anyways,
I guess we're just going to have to get him to Dallas here in the next year or two.
Okay. But getting Luka eligible to play, because he wasn't going to play, was a big win for the Mavericks, because then they could try to control their destiny and either get the third seed or potentially avoid playing the Jazz or the Nuggets. And then this to happen in the second half, yikes.
We don't know the severity. He's getting an MRI today. Speculation, there's like the NBA doctors or the doctors who do sports medicine that are big on Twitter, and I saw one guy, it could be a few days, it could be a couple weeks. I don't know. I still haven't gone back and watched it. It's not like I would be able to tell anything, but it was significant enough for him to immediately be like, yep, that's it. Let's go back to the training room. And that sucks. If I had to guess what happens, he misses the first couple games, and I think Dallas's team is deep enough I think they can get one at home against the Jazz, shorthanded. I do. Because they're a 3-point shooting. They shoot the 3-pointer. I don't know where they're at in the rankings, but they shoot it well. And if they get anything out of Maxi Kleber, who's one of their big men, who coincidentally didn't play last night, then they're going to be a tough out. He's been pretty awful this season with his shot, but Bullock has been great. Dorian Finney-Smith's been great. Jalen's always great. And if they can get something from Dinwiddie, that's a pretty serviceable starting five. And I don't know. I've been kind of sick about it. I had trouble falling back asleep thinking about this last night, because that is just absolute worst case scenario.
Again, the roller coaster of emotions on my timeline for the weekend. Again, you've got Rangers starting their season, dropping a couple games, putting up a bunch of runs early in both games and losing to Toronto and losing 2 out of 3. But, whatever. It's baseball. A lot of people care.
200 games left in the season to get it right.
A ton of people in my timeline real excited about Ke'Bryan Hayes and his 8-year, $70 million deal with the Pirates. I know I was excited about that.
You really were. You were texting me.
All over it. But then you go from just optimism to the elation of golf Twitter here in Dallas being excited for Scottie Scheffler, to finishing off Sunday night like this. Cliches and puns aside, like Sunday scaries, we're almost averted. You've got a Masters Sunday, no sweeter weekend to rest your little head, and coming to Monday all sprightly and excited, and hit the Dallas sports scene with this was pretty shitty. What's also shitty, real quick, Tim McMahon, Twitter, like him, met him, good dude. He's a writer for covers the NBA for ESPN. Previously worked with Dallas Morning News, I believe. Immediately after the injury, the Mavs PR released that Luka left calf strain, will not return tonight. Tim McMahon quote tweets it. This obviously puts Luka's start of this, postseason, in jeopardy. And I'm like, okay, not obviously 5 minutes after the injury. Didn't look pretty. The Mavs get the shittiest start time to their playoffs. They start at noon on Saturday. The first playoff game, noon on Saturday. So average return time anywhere from 3 days. Median's been 17 days. It's you're going to just have to hope for somewhere in the middle. But I would say across the board, it ain't worth rushing it, but we'll see.
Something to think about those numbers, like the median numbers, average numbers, whatever. That's during the regular season. And
Correct.
I'm sure they're always over, playing it safe and had those same injuries, whoever they might be, people who had calf strains, been in the playoffs, they would have gutted it out and tried to do it. And I bet Luka traditionally has been that guy. He's played in those Clippers series with a jacked up neck that was clearly affecting him. He's going to do everything he can to play Saturday. I would not want to be the person who tells him, like, no, you're going to be out at least 2 games in this series. Because I think I wouldn't be surprised. I don't think it's likely, but I would not be shocked if he goes out there. And even if he's just not a decoy, but even if he's just at 75%, he's going to require a double team at times. And the other team, Utah's best defender. And that's going to make him very important out there, even if he's not able to be explosive as Luka can be, or, the Luka who's driving it to the rack. And I don't know. It sucks. I've tried to not think about it all day and not refresh Twitter, but it's been tough.
It's going to demand a lot out of Dwight Powell and Maxi Kleber, because Rudy Gobert just becomes that much more effective when you don't have Luka coming to the lane to be another threat. Real quick, we do have play-in games set up for this week. A reminder how the NBA works. I'm sure you can look at ESPN.com, figure it out, but whatever. Funnier thing about the Lakers not making the playoffs is the fact that 10 teams are now a part of the playoff picture, and the Lakers ain't one of them. But in the West, you've got the Pelicans and the Spurs, Timberwolves and the Clippers. East, you have the Hawks and the Hornets. And then number 7 seed and the 8th seed, the Brooklyn Nets and the Cleveland Cavaliers will be an interesting situation. So again, in the 7 and 8 seed games, the winner is automatically the 7th seed. The loser gets another opportunity to play the winner of the 9-10 game to become the 8th seed in the playoffs. So you're looking at the likelihood of the Nets probably playing the Celtics. If for some reason the Nets screw up and lose, which wouldn't be the worst decision, but they likely would play the Hawks and then have to play Jimmy Butler and Kyle Murray. Not Kyle Murray. What is his name?
Kyle Lowry.
Kyle Lowry. Thank you. And the Heat. I will be very interested in seeing that matchup if we get that. Otherwise, I want Trae Young and the Heat. That'd be exciting.
I don't like the Heat at all. I hate it. I just can't stand a number of their players. I want Atlanta to somehow end up in the 8th seed, and I want Trae against Miami. I know the Hawks are a little bit down, little roster change midseason. I still want to see what Trae can do, because he can win a series. I think he proved last year. Granted, it was the Knicks. They were not a 1 seed, but he can win. He can drive a series against the Heat to 7 games, I think.
If we get Timberwolves and the Grizzlies, that might be the round 1 matchup of the best matchup of round 1. Ja Morant, Anthony Edwards is going to be electric television.
Man, if I'm a Grizz fan, I want Pat Beverly nowhere near Ja at all.
Yeah, that's true. That would be a big distraction. Okay. So let's shift gears a little bit on NBA. Oh, odds are all over the place. We can check back on the odds once the tournament's set next week. F1. We're 3 races into the season. I agonized all weekend thinking that I misspoke and said Monaco was the track that I didn't like, and then maybe it was Monza or some shit. And I'm like, turns out I was right, because I'm just a big F1 guy. Ferrari and Leclerc, second win on the season, pole position, finished first, fastest lap. Things are looking good for them. George Russell, first podium for Mercedes. Hamilton finished fourth. Mercedes cars are clearly still not where they want them, not as competitive as they were last year. Ferrari's just doing very well. Perez and Red Bull finished second. Verstappen, second out of 3 races this year, did not finish. So, of course, there's a lot of discussion on the modifications to the car and the car being right and all of that back and forth complaining. I'm sure things will even out by the end of the year, but it's just been an interesting first few weeks for Team Verstappen.
I'm very interested in how embarrassing is that to not finish like 2 or 3 races for what a lot of people think is the best driver in the world. How
and no wreck, no dicey situation. If anything, he's been driving extremely aggressive, as aggressive as he was down the stretch with Hamilton. He was doing that coming out of some starts because there were a lot of caution flags. I don't know if to call them caution flags, whatever. There were a lot of restarts in this race, and he was being as aggressive as ever, and eventually just his car caught fire. He's like, I smell some weird fuel fumes, whatever, blah, blah, blah. And they're having to put a fire out in his car. So I don't know what the fuck's going on with Red Bull, but it ain't pretty.
No. I'm assuming they're filming Drive to Survive, right?
100%.
That's going to be
golf, but that's going on right now too for golf.
Yeah. I'm really interested in the golf, see if it's anything like Drive to Survive as far as the access and kind of the unfiltered nature. But no, I don't know what kind of guy Verstappen is behind closed doors. But I do want to know what he's saying to that team. Like, cause that is so embarrassing for a guy of his, a driver. I'm gonna call him a racer, a driver of his caliber to just 2 of the first 3 races, you just don't finish. Wish this shit wasn't on at midnight. I tried to stay up. I was watching UFC and that card ended just after midnight. And I thought about parlaying it into another drink at my house and just watching it. And then I was like, you know what? Why?
Well, if you didn't, then ESPN proper fucked a lot of viewers because their scheduled showing of it, because obviously we're filled with Masters and NBA finishing off on Sunday, was slated to be like 7 p.m. on Sunday night. That didn't happen. Like it got pushed. I don't know if it happened until like 8 o'clock, and people were not very pleased on the TL for that. So
they got bumped.
They did get bumped. So
tough.
Not what you want to see for what you want to view as the most popular sport in the world by growth. Now, let's do a little sports partying. How about that?
You trying to party right now?
I think we should party.
This is the segment on the Too Much Dip podcast where we talk about sports and we party at the same time.
All right, so I'm going to ask for something a little atypical. If you can, just quiet down real quick, because we have to start all sports parties with, in the best way, a toast, if you will. And I'm going to let Gil Brandt, Hall of Fame GM and executive for the NFL, lead us off with his toast.
Anytime anybody is killed or anybody dies, but he was a guy that was living to be dead, so to speak. They told him don't under any circumstances leave school early. You just don't have the work habits. You don't have this. You don't have that. What did he do? Left school early. I always can remember this. We invited players to the draft, and he was one of the players we invited to the draft. And we were told no. We're going to have our own party. His own party was a party at the bowling alley. Charged him $50 to get into the bowling alley for his party.
And with that said, I would like to say, Too Much Dip, humbly, rest in peace to Dwayne Haskins.
Humbly as well.
Humbly would like to say rest in peace to 24-year-old Dwayne Haskins, hit by a vehicle in Florida while jogging at night. Unfortunate loss of a young life. First round draft pick of the Redskins, tremendous player at Ohio State, and there before. Prime example of, I think everyone's opinion of an athlete can be overly swayed by what their expectations of that athlete are and not by the actual quality of the person and or the performance of the person. Coupling that with just absolute idiocracy when you let 80-year-olds continue commenting on anything.
No, KJ. 90-year-olds.
90-year-olds.
Gil Brandt is 90, and I was going to say this goes to prove my theory. You should just never interview a 90-year-old. I'm okay with like I know 90 is probably outside of that demo, but like old school World War II vets, let's see what they have to say. This is a cool story. I don't need to hear 90-year-olds takes on modern day NFL stuff, because that is just completely, I don't know. It was just weird. We haven't even talked about Schefter's tweet, which he got universally roasted for, because it's just, dude, you don't have to put the positive. There's a time and place for I love a positives. It's part of my literary background. I love doing that. You didn't need to put that in there. We don't need to know about his struggles with multiple teams in the NFL. Like, he hasn't caught on yet. Okay, man. You could just report the news. Don't editorialize. Fucking Schefter. Schefter's taking a lot of L's this year.
It makes it just as bad. Like, I think it highlights that you also don't necessarily need to throw in Hall of Fame or once rushed for 2,000 yards, rest in peace juice. Like, we don't need that first part. You can just establish that this person has passed away at this age, our thoughts, blah, 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 with the family, children, those that are still alive and with their heads. You don't need to add in Uber driver does X, Y, Z or whatever. I don't know why I'm picking on Uber, but I feel like that's always in the headlines. Like, you unnecessarily throw in the occupation and you think that you're like identifying them to the public, but at a certain level, the context should give that away. You can make a whole separate statement that's full of let's look back on the life of, or the career of, or the performances of, and do all your talking there. But obviously Gil Brandt, Adam Schefter, they were told to EAD by enough people out there, add us to the list.
Good start to the party. Man, I don't know anything about Haskins' back, like how he grew up, if he grew up like poor or anything, but like
obsessed with Ohio State. Like, I called his shot to be their quarterback like at the age of like 7 or something like that.
That's awesome. It's just like thinking about that Gil Brandt quote. It's like, man, I wonder why he wanted to come out of college early. I wonder if it's so he could go make millions of dollars and then provide for like his family. That's just such a bad.
I don't even know if it was like a financial hardship situation, or as much as it was like probably tired of being talked to by people like Gil Brandt and told what he had to do every day of his life in college.
Pretty amazing. I don't know. That's sad. I didn't realize he was jogging. I didn't know the details. So he was like literally just because he was down there with the other Steelers quarterbacks and skill players, right? They were just kind of doing some kind of little camp down there.
I don't know the full context, but all I know is a single vehicle accident. He was hit while running on the side of the road. I don't even, it could come out that he had bath salts in his body and wasn't wearing any reflective clothing. Like, I'm not going to be like, oh, well, he earned it,
Yeah, no, I hope not. I'm sure somebody would.
Mm-hmm. His insurance providers probably.
Yeah, man. Remember bath salts? I feel like Florida was ground zero for bath salts.
Bring that beat back. Shout out to Drew Holiday. We've talked NBA already, but the guard for the Milwaukee Bucks earned $225K by committing one foul in 13 seconds and exiting the game. I enjoy all stupid contract incentives that are, earned by just checking into a game or, catching one reception at the end of an NFL season or taking a knee or whatever it might be. Half a sack away from a bonus. Like, I get why they're put in there. I just loved when they're so clearly exploited to where the player on the other team like knows and is like joking with the player, like, oh, I'm not going to let you foul me and I'm going to make this hard, and laughing about it when it happens. So happy to see that.
That was fun. That stuff's always funny.
I moved the Frank Vogel being fired in Los Angeles down to sports party because I feel like we also fall victim to talking a little too much about the Lakers. But then at times I'm like, greatest player of all times on a team that's absolute trash, won a title 2 years ago and has multiple players that we all think are great at some point in their career, and they got trash beyond all compare.
Bro, did you say these LeBron's the greatest player of all time? Are you saying he's the GOAT, bro?
Arguably.
Okay. If you want to do the GOAT debate, we can do it, man.
We're not afraid to go.
Hey, is this note true that the Pacers really have interest in Westbrook?
Can you imagine?
No. Carlisle and Westbrook?
Imagine.
No. Absolute. That does not work.
I hope that it happens. Like, Westbrook isn't James Harden, but he seems like the type that, like, you work well with him, but not against him. Or that's stupid to say, but like, you will be much better guiding like everyone else around him than you are demanding him to do anything. And that is not how Rick Carlisle operates.
And just his style of play. Like, having seen enough of Rick Carlisle years here in Dallas to know, like, he does not tolerate wild ass point guards who get fast and loose with the ball, take bad shots. There's a reason he doesn't really let rookies play all that much. He does not trust. I don't know. That would be hilarious. I don't know though. I love Russ I like the thought of Russ. It's just like, dude, I don't know where he fits now in this NBA.
It reminds me of just watching some of the best big men in the league, like, slowly be irrelevant. Like, Melo, I would say, was your last spot up shooter to really be just an absolute star from mid range. Russ would be your last, like, high volume, high turnover ratio, win a scoring title, win a triple double title, and like be applauded for it, because I don't think anyone's going to tolerate that anymore. So with that, we're a couple weeks out from the NFL draft. Obviously, there's continuing to be a few different trades here and there. Still no movement on the Baker Mayfield watch, so we'll get back to you on that. But let's finish it off with the Combat Sports Minute.
Yeah, just real quick. We had a lot going on in the combat sports world. We had a Danny Garcia fight. He, of course, he's probably the most Instagram, TikTok friendly boxer in the game. Posts his workouts there. They're crazy fast hands. He fought a guy recently turned pro, I think, out of Ghana, who has a lot of heart, but I think Danny Garcia had no problems. Triple G, he's been my favorite boxer for years. Goes to Japan, a fight that was supposed to happen last year and it didn't because of COVID. Goes over there, fights Murata in his hometown or in his home country, and hasn't fought in a long time, had some ring rust. It was a good fight early. Murata came out pretty hard. Triple G stops him, TKO in the 9th round. So that's important because Canelo, assuming he wins his next fight, you will have the trilogy fight, the Canelo Triple G trilogy that Triple G wants. I don't think Canelo really wants, just because he thinks he has nothing to prove there. Their first fight was very, 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 very well documented. Like, okay, not well. I don't want to say that. Triple G probably won the first fight, but it was split decision.
It was scored in split decision, but wasn't it scored heavily in Canelo's favor? But nobody argued with the outcome as much as they did with the scoring, right? With that,
yeah.
Or was it the other way around?
I want to make sure I'm not. Yeah, Canelo obviously won the rematch. That was majority decision. A draw is what I'm looking for. I said split decision. I always screw that up for some reason. But yeah, that was the one where it was like a draw, and people were like, "Oh, we're protecting Canelo, our cash cow here. Can't have him having 2 losses on the ledger. His first being to Floyd when he was just a kid." But anyway, so we're gonna get that third fight, and Triple G's 40. His hands aren't what he's still got power. He showed it against Murata, but like Canelo's just a different animal. Canelo's peaking now. And
so Canelo's what, 34?
Yeah, he's much younger. I think he's early 30s. But I don't know. I'd love to see Triple G go out there and stop Canelo. It's very unlikely. What really happens is Triple G goes out on his shield, and that's it. That's a career.
Jeez.
He's 31.
60 fights, 57 wins, 39 by knockout. Yeah, it's obviously a bag for both of them. But just the utter lack of, arguable, like who else to fight right now type thing is what I feel like that division is facing. Not that I know a ton about boxing, but I feel like at least a name would bubble up to where I'd hear it often enough just to hear about it. So I won't, I don't know. It depends. It's what, in the fall? It's October, right? So, depends on what Pac-12 after dark game is happening. If Hawaii and San Diego State are playing or something, I might look for the crack streams to catch it. But, I keep closer tabs, I would say, on Errol Spence and his efforts to finally get back to trying to
We got Spence fighting this weekend. So keep an eye.
He's what, still probably a fight or two away from maybe fighting Bud, if that ever happened.
Yeah. I mean, it would be the end of the year or the following year. I don't know.
He would dominate this fight somebody well. I don't know who next.
I don't even think he needs to dominate this fight because Ugas, this is going to be a really good fight. Ugas is badass. So if he just wins and it's a close one, like that doesn't do anything for the Terrence Crawford potential. That is just at this point being held up. I mean, depending on who you listen to, is promoters.
Promoters and one untimely car accident.
Exactly. 149-mile-an-hour Ferrari flip,
which nobody was held accountable for. All right, let's get out of here.
Oh yeah, and also R.I.P. Korean Zombie.
Oh yes, bad. I forgot we were talking about.
No. That's okay. I think so. He lost to Volkanovski over the weekend. He was clearly outmatched, and shout out Herb Dean for stopping that fight. And after the fight, he was crying hysterically. There was a presumption that that's it for him. That's his second shot at the title, and he's lost both of them. And it's like he's also 39 or 40 years old, and he's the Korean Zombie because he takes a lot of punishment. And it's like, man, you can't keep doing that. So that might have been it. I don't know if he's officially said if he's hanging him up, but shout out to the Korean Zombie. I know the Caucasian Zombie, Will DeFries, was very upset to learn about that result. So
35 years old, 17-7 record. But yeah, Volkanovski, 24-1.
Volkanovski's a wild boy, dude. Former rugby player, fights at that weight. He used to be over 200 pounds. I think it's just insane that a guy can lose that much weight and be still a world-class athlete. It doesn't make any sense to me. And now he's saying he might move up. He's a badass. He's really quick and he's tough as hell. And he just looks like a guy that if you saw him at a bar, he would probably be drunk and obnoxious and you wouldn't want to say a thing to, because he has got headbutt you vibes written all over him. Rugby, Australia.
Yeah, I'd spot the cauliflower ear from a mile away, and he and I would not be on the same half of the bar at any point in time.
No. Okay, KJ. Well, we'll be on Kid Watch with you. Keep us posted.
Sounds good. Appreciate it.
All right. We'll see y'all next week.
I want my chips with the dip. That's all I know. I don't want my chips plain. I want my chips with the dip. So bring them dips.